properly.
I am not opposed to an international strategy for dealing with these things. I'm not even opposed to the UN, but I don't have a whole lot to say on it because I'm not a diplomacy student, so I don't know a whole lot of the workings of the UN. But I would like to respond to Stephen's statement on Afghanistan. There's so many things that just slipped my mind to mention it. I think that the same surge strategy should be employed in Afghanistan because that's really the only way to respond to the kind of actions that where the people we're fighting are not, it's not conventional war like we're used to. So we need the personnel to respond to insurgencies and things like that. We're not used to fighting this kind of war, and I don't think anybody's really perfected this style of warfare yet, and I really think that we should use the same surge strategy to achieve success in Afghanistan as well.
Yeah. I would point out that the commanding general on the ground in Afghanistan has stated that the surge strategy would not work in Afghanistan for numerous reasons. This was mentioned by Senator Biden in the vice presidential debate. He said that the problem is much more related to a lack of education, as well as infrastructure and things such as that. And that the situation in Iraq is so drastically different than in Afghanistan that a surge strategy, at least the way that it's implemented in Iraq, would not work. While I say that, I do agree that we need more troops in Afghanistan, but not related to the surge strategy, which has other aspects rather than simply injecting troops.
Professor Fisher.
Yeah, I wanted to actually interject with something that my Swedish friend said earlier, because for a while there I thought I was sitting next to an American when you were saying we need to do this in Iraq. I guess the question is, who is the we? Is it the United States, or is it the international community? The international community was against the invasion of Iraq to begin with. Now that things haven't been going too well, it's kind of like now the American public is coming around to, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had the international community on board? My gut instinct would be, however, that in Sweden, there's not a whole lot of support for sending troops to Iraq. So if things are going to be stabilized militarily, specifically in Iraq, the we is going to have to be the United States.
Yes, we would never ever send troops to Iraq. We can make that clear right now. When I say we, I mean the international community, and I don't only think of troops. I think of rebuilding the country. Because even if things has been,
we got all the suits ready.
Can I? Sure. Or I just want to say, I'm not sure if I agree, Jacob, because I think that I'm just not sure, because if the United Nations decided that this is what we have to act like, even if what the U.S. did was wrong from a public international law aspect, then they should maybe finish the job. It's still about the Iraqi people, I think. Not who should we punish and have to do this. And I think if the United Nations decided that Sweden should maybe send troops, I wouldn't say never ever that.
No, then we would.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
But as part of a UN delegation.
Yeah, never as something else.
We wouldn't send forces as allies.
No, I just wanted to clear that up. Like, of course,
in a UN
that
mandate,
would not happen, but within a realm of United Nations.
We're going to move on to the kind of the final this broad question, and if people want to stick around and ask questions, because some of the guests in the panel have to step out. So I'm going to ask the last question, and it's kind of really general, but for the socialist, libertarian, and the other panel members, feel free to answer this the way you want to, because I guess this more directly refers to the Republicans and Democrats. Many have dubbed this year's presidential election a change year. Words such as change and reform have been thrown around time and time again, but critics argue as we get closer to November 4th, what we really see is typical party politics, rather than real change. Please discuss how your candidate differs from previous candidates in your party? Let's start with the Republicans.
Well, I would agree that this is a change year. I don't think really anybody can say this isn't a change year. Every candidate is saying that we need to change what we've been doing. I would argue that John McCain and Sarah Palin are definitely mavericks. They've both taken on their party when they saw that their party wasn't acting correctly. Sarah Palin took on the Republican establishment in Alaska when she thought that they were not doing their best to represent the people of Alaska, and now the government of Alaska works a lot more for their people than they used to. And John McCain, I would argue, is probably not George Bush's favorite member of the Senate because he's gone against what President Bush has asked of the Republicans many times. So I would definitely say that John McCain and Sarah Palin are far from what we've seen from the Republican Party in the past.
Just a follow-up to that, I believe based on my stats that I see before me, John McCain's voted with the president, George W. Bush, 90% of the time. How would you respond to that?
Well, I think if you look at anybody's votes on with the majority of their party, there's a reason that they're both Republicans because they agree on certain principles, but there have been instances where he has stood up in the past and said that things aren't going to work, and I think that anybody who's going to run for president has to be able to stand up to their party when they feel their party isn't acting properly, and I just don't think that in the short time Senator Obama's been the senator, we've seen him do that.
On the flip side, according to factcheck.org, Obama's voted with his party 97% of the time. So, food for thought. The Democrat.
I would say in response to that, that's because there haven't been many issues that he should have opposed the party voting on. Whereas I do respect, I must say I do respect Senator McCain a great deal. However, I do believe that this campaign has gotten away from him quite a bit, and that the typical party people that ran President Bush's campaigns seem to have been running Senator McCain's campaigns. In response to whether this year is this election is a change year, I would have to say I'm a realist. So when I hear flowery words and I hear change and that sort of thing, I like to actually look at what's going on, what they're talking about. Obviously any presidential election can be a change election because depending on who's elected, they will change certain things. I would go deeper into it and say that even if Senator Obama is elected, it will be extremely difficult for change to occur unless he gets the 60 Senate seats that he needs. That's really the key. If this election ends up being a change election, it won't necessarily be because Senator Obama is the next president, even though that would be a historic election, and yes, it is. Even right now, and even in the fact that you don't have a Clinton or a Bush running, or someone who's run for office, in the same family for the past 50 years. The key is that without the Senate and the House, a president can only do so much. So while they want to say they're going to change things, they need the support of the Congress. If they don't have that, really, it is all meaningless talk. So without that, it will be very difficult for change. With 60 Senate seats, you will see sweeping change.
And our libertarian friend must leave, so